Meeting of the Dudley-Charlton Regional School Committee is now in session. It is Wednesday, November 13th. It is 7 p.m. We're at the Charlton Middle School. We will all stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our regular meeting of Wednesday, October 23rd.
So moved.
Discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Okay, motion carries, it's unanimous. Approval of the warrant. This evening, we do have a warrant that will make its way around the table. Citizens Forum. Do we have anyone this evening to come forward? All right.
Executive session minutes. Colleen. Minutes of the executive session.
Is that, was,
Yeah, those are put in for later.
Oh, for later,
Okay.
okay. Thank you.
communications?
I don't have any.
And
Okay.
I don't. How about our members? Any communications? Okay. Superintendent's report, Steve?
Madam Chair and School Committee, I have a couple of items to report on this evening. One of them is that we do continue to monitor Triple E in our area. I know that the ban has been lifted, meaning the cap on timing. We've learned that the ban has been lifted throughout our area and other communities and districts. It is our hope that this past weekend's hard frost, this morning even, eliminated the risk factors this year. I did look at the state website before I came to the meeting, and it's still listed as a high-risk area in this area. But I think we can all attest to the cold that's been out there for the past day or two. But we do continue to monitor that. Yes.
I was at a Mass Health Officers Association conference last week where Dr. Catherine Brown, who's the person who oversees this for the state, made an announcement that we have across Massachusetts reached a cold and a frost, that we should have a level of protection, that it is safe to lift all of these evening activity bans. However, people should be aware that some mosquitoes may be very resilient, and so to take your own personal precautions.
Yep. Thank you, and I think we should, I think hopefully we're at a point now where when we see mosquitoes, anyone sees a mosquito, they get nervous about that.
Right.
I'm hoping that is instilled in everybody at this point in time.
And for planning purposes, we should at least be aware that usually these cycles of difficult years can be 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we should be aware that next year, this could be something we're facing again.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. The next announcement is probably one that's, I know I'm new to Dudley-Charlton, but this is something that I found a little upsetting as the superintendent for the district. This past week, last week, I learned that the Shepherd Hill Regional High School boys varsity soccer team had an early end to their season due to a violation of MIAA Rule 78.2.11 made by the athletic director and the coach. A student athlete should have been suspended from 2 contests or games during the season for sportsmanship violations, which are yellow cards, that he received in prior games. Subsequently, 2 contest games were forfeited as a result, bringing the team record below entry into MIAA playoffs. As you can imagine, there are real frustrations for student athletes, for parents, and for caregivers. We collectively take this seriously and own this error. From this point forward, we have established expectations that this cannot happen again and will not happen again for any team or for any sport within our district. It's completely unacceptable from my perspective. So I apologize to those families and to those players that even the slightest mistake cost our students reputation as well as the opportunity to play in MIAA playoffs. The Dudley-Charlton Education Foundation, again, has their annual campaign for support in their big event, Uncorked and Uncapped. It's approaching. The event is a wine and beer tasting, November 22nd. That's a Friday, 2019, from 6 to 8:30 p.m. at Nichols College in the auditorium. There will be a silent auction and local vendors supporting the foundation. You can find out more at DCED for Dudley-Charlton Education, DCEDfoundation.org, DCEDfoundation.org. This past Monday, November 11th, we observed Veterans Day. As I continue to grow and learn in my own personal life, I have come to understand the genuine need to thank our veterans for their service and dedication to ensuring the safety and security of our livelihood. I myself had not served, but my father was a Marine and my older brother was in the Navy. In addition, coming from Bourne, where Joint Base Cape Cod is located, I have learned firsthand the sacrifices service families make to serve us and support us. We have many families in our community, Dudley-Charlton, who have a service member that deserves our thanks and appreciation for the recognition this past Monday and every day of the year. Here in our district, we had a number of events. Our schools, the students heard daily announcements recognizing the branches of the armed forces. Students wore red, white, and blue to display American pride. Donations were made from staff and students for honor flight veterans from staff, and for students for treats for the troops, which left over Halloween candy, which I'm sure there was plenty of that. Crafts and art projects commemorating our veterans were completed, and some were delivered to the Masonic home. Veterans were invited into some of our schools for an assembly, and we also had Bring a Veteran to School Day as well to recognize our veterans. I really appreciate the dedication and recognition of our veterans as displayed across our schools and with our principals and other leaders in our district like Peter Olson and Jennifer Hedgedis as well for recognition as well.
I just add that Shepherd Hill Band, after winning over the weekend, also participated in the Veterans Day Parade, which they haven't been able to do in a while because they're never home in time, and it was outstanding to see them play and march down West Main Street.
That's great.
It was Monday, yeah,
Yeah.
super.
That's great. And that concludes
Superintendent.
my superintendent's report this evening, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Lamache. That brings us to student representative report. Kaylee?
Thank you. I'm sorry I haven't been here the past few weeks. A lot of college visits. It's that time of year, but thank you. So I do have a couple of things to report on tonight, primarily up at the Hill. Just to piggyback off of what Mr. LaMarche said earlier, district-wide, everyone is doing their share to give back this holiday season. Dudley Middle School is running their annual food drive to benefit the Webster Dudley Food Share. And what they do on the 8th grade side is they do the Resistance Project, and last year I think I reported they brought over, 1,300 canned goods to that project, and it was an outstanding, and every year they try to beat that and get more cans goods to go over there. So they're looking forward to beating that. Not only is DMS doing that, but also Mason Road Choose to Be Nice Club is collecting non-perishable food items to go to their local food pantry. Charlton Middle School showed their support this month on National Diabetes Day by wearing blue and selling bracelets for diabetes awareness, and they also held their Veterans Day Assembly this past week to honor those who have served for our country. And Shepherd Hill NHS collected over 1,000 pairs of socks up at Shepherd Hill alone to be donated to those in need. Mason Road, Dudley Elementary School, Heritage, and Charlton Middle School also participated in this event called Socktober that they've been running. And the Charlton Elementary School Choose to Be Nice Club, they wrote inspirational messages for students at the high school, and that's going to be hung up next to their lockers at their next meeting. And they also made thank you posters for all the bus drivers in the district. So that's what I have going on district-wide. Everyone's doing such a great job during this holiday season. Big round of applause to them. And then this past weekend up at Shepherd Hill, the girls cross-country team won the district championship. Senior Emma Sullivan won the first place, and freshman Emery Mullen came in second. The boys cross-country placed 6th overall in their district championship, with Henry Weiland earning a spot to the state meet. And just like Mrs. Cabalas said, the marching band won their 3rd consecutive national championship, and this is their 4th title overall. Huge shout out to them. They've been doing so much work, and I can't wait to see what they do in the future.
We would have brought the trophy over, but we brought the truck.
They have so many at this point. You should see the showcase that they have going on down there. And then last Friday, the football upset Wachusett. They earned a spot to the final this Saturday against St. John's. That game's going to be held at Doyle Field in Leominster. at 11 o'clock. The MIAA advised that tickets be purchased online if anyone's interested, just because the line for such a big game gets a little bit long. They don't want anyone missing kickoff. And tomorrow we actually have 4 seniors signing their national letters of intent to play sports in college. Those seniors are Kylie Wong Lee, Madison Marsh, Skylar Peets, and Emma Sullivan. Kylie's playing Division I softball at Siena. Maddie Marsh is playing Division I track at UMass Lowell. Skylar Peets is playing Division II lacrosse at Southern New Hampshire University. And Emma Sullivan, like I mentioned earlier, she committed Division I track at Jacksonville University down in Florida. Their meeting will be starting at 3 o'clock tomorrow, with all of them being recognized. A lot of people are going to show their support, and a huge shout out to them in that big accomplishment. And 76 of our grade 12 students qualified to receive the John and Abigail Adams Scholarship, which enables them to free tuition at any Mass state schools. And Mr. Shepherd Hill will be held next Thursday, November 21st, from 6 to 9 p.m. in the auditorium. Tickets can be purchased at the door. Any questions?
No, but
Lots of
how
great things to
about,
hear.
Is the student council putting on that community dinner, November
We
25th?
just saw the email about
Thanksgiving?
it.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I might have missed that. Yeah, and then I also had one more thing,
Because
Mr. Lamarche
we did get an
just gave
email
it.
on
Yeah.
that today.
Okay, so that should be held the same night. But yeah, so Mr. Lamarche also just gave me this. I saw it on the Twitter. So our very own DJ, I've asked him so many times to pronounce his last name, Kiovan Manisar, I think that's the right way. Just today, he received the MIAA Student Athlete of the Month Award. I'll just go through a few points of this. He competed in athletics during his 4 years at Shepherd Hill, 2 seasons of soccer, 2 seasons of cross country, and 4 years of indoor and outdoor track. DJ is actually the secretary for our class, the class officers, and he's also on NHS. He does a great job there. He has a GPA of 4.03, and he values his relationships with teammates and knows that by doing his work efficiently, he'll have time to enjoy the time he has spent with his teammates. So big shout out to him. And yeah, he's just doing a great job. Everyone up at the Hill and district-wide, they're doing a great job. So everyone should be proud of their accomplishments this month.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kaylee. Any questions for Kaylee?
Thank you.
Good job. Thank you. That brings us to new business, Principal Showcase, Charlton Elementary School, Laurie Pacheco.
Thank you. Today's World Kindness Day, and I have to say, we should call it Nice November in the district because of all the things you just said. Thank you for allowing me to come. In the past, we have always had our family literacy night in the fall where we've had it at nighttime. And it's a great event, but there might be 100 children who come, and we have a group of 350 students. And so we decided to change our entire schedule for the day, lunches, recesses, everything, specials, and hold this event during the day so that all 350 students could attend. And we couldn't have done so without the 17 high school students that came up to participate and help us. We had 17 parents that came, and we even had retired teachers from the Overlook who came over and ran an event. So it was a real community affair. It enabled all the teachers just to walk around and make sure all their children were engaged. And so we put together a little slideshow with a few interviews, one of them which you might find very interesting.
Well, then I should probably get my camera ready, is that what you're saying?
Because I thought your son did a great job in his interview.
He didn't even tell me he did
Carnival?
Bring on costumes from the scavenger hunt.
Yeah, wearing the costumes is great. Did you find all the things in the scavenger hunt?
Not yet.
What are you missing?
A bat, a Frankenstein, and a spider.
The Frankenstein and the spider. Well, good luck finding them.
No, also a bat.
And a bat too. Well, good luck. Here with Mrs. Carroll and Mrs. Paquette. What do you guys think of the Literacy Carnival?
This is awesome. The kids are so happy and engaged.
I love it. It's perfect.
What do you think about all the work Mrs. Kerouac did?
Oh, it was a lot of work, but definitely worth it.
She is awesome.
Sitting here with Nathan. Hi, Nathan.
Hi.
What do you like best about the Literacy Fair?
The sound bingo.
A sound bingo. What did you do in sound bingo?
They said the sound and you have to put that the eraser on that sound, the one that had that it starts with this sound.
And was it a lot of fun?
Yeah.
Do you give Literacy Carnival 2 thumbs up?
Yeah.
I'm here with Mrs. Paculis, who is a member of the Charlton Elementary School Council and a parent volunteer at our Literacy Carnival. You have been a parent that has come to our nighttime event and now to the daytime event. What are your thoughts?
I was just saying how much I really loved it being during the day. I feel like all the kids get to experience it. I also think that it gives the kids a little bit more freedom to kind of move around school and explore what they're most interested in. And as a parent, I'm not as overly concerned being here at night with so many people trying to get to all the activities.
Well, thanks so much for volunteering. We appreciate you.
No, thank you.
I'm here with 3 Spider-Men who have attended the Literacy Carnival. Guys, what do you think the best part of the Literacy Carnival is?
The scavenger hunt, the bowling, the making wood with candy.
Have you had a really good time today?
Yes.
And did you like being in costume?
Yes.
And are you enjoying keeping our buildings safe and free
Yes.
from villains?
Yes.
Thank you, superheroes. I'm here right now with our reading specialist, Mrs. Amy Kerouac, the mastermind behind our Literacy Carnival. Mrs. Kerouac, is it meeting the expectations when you set out to have it during the day like this?
I think this is fantastic, and I'm not the mastermind, I'm maybe the organizer, but everybody comes together, does their part. We have volunteers from the high school, volunteers of parents coming in. The kids have someone to work with at every single station, and everyone is engaged. I'm so glad that every child has a chance to be involved in the literacy games this year. When parents come at night, often they have other things to do, so not everybody gets to come. Today the kids got to put on some costumes and be with their friends in a really meaningful literary way, and I think it was fantastic.
Thanks for all the work that you do every day to make literacy important at Charlton Elementary.
My pleasure.
And I have to say, so we had 27 stations, and at the halfway mark, we flipped them all. So they went from kindergarten preschool activities after the first hour, and we changed every single one of them to first grade activities to accommodate the different skill levels of the different kids. So Mrs. Kerouac and the team at Charlton Elementary, I give them just, as your son said, 2 thumbs up for the great job that they did. So, thank you.
That's a
Thank
great
you.
job.
Do you have to do anything?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great job.
That's awesome.
I didn't even know.
Surprises are nice, huh?
Yeah, kind of.
A nice surprise. Next on the agenda, report of the Director of Finance and Operations. Rich?
Thank you very much. A couple of items for the committee this evening. First, a few donations to accept. Mason Road School received a check for $1,000 from the Dudley PTO. Dudley Elementary received the same amount, also from the Dudley PTO. Both donations were a result of the support for the PTO readathon. Charlton Elementary received a donation of $98.50 from Planet Aid. Shepherd Hill High School received a donation of $200 from the Sitkowski and Malbuff Funeral Home to support the First Honors Recognition Dinner.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to accept the donations that Rich has brought to us.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you. In the committee's packet was the budget summary page, and at the committee, at the table tonight was the full budget packet. These are the budget transfers that are required based on the salary changes that occurred through the hiring process and at the beginning of the year. The only transfers from the expenditure areas, as I discussed before and in the memo, were from the school choice assessment from the state, which did decrease a little bit, but primarily from the contingency account in the district other expenses area. And then from Shepherd Hill and from Dudley Middle School, we dipped into the tuition that's reserved for Project Rise, which is a regular ed program that's there in case it's needed. At this point in time, there's those aren't needed, and you know, we are a good portion of the way through the school year at this point in time. The big thing that we're taking a look that we want to watch as we go through FY '20, and this relates to the quarterly reports as well, is ensuring that the salary accounts stay on track. You know, that's where, obviously, where the most volatility is and the least amount of control. If somebody is out sick for a period of time, they, you know, may or may not have sick time to cover, but certainly we're going to have the expense of substitutes. So I'd ask the school committee to vote the transfers as shown on the budget summary page to make those accommodations for salaries and go from there.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the transfers.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you. The next item is the FY '21 budget timeline. We'll discuss this under the Budget and Finance Subcommittee portion of the agenda, so I'll just skip right over that and go to the quarterly reports. My apologies for not getting this out yesterday. I unfortunately was on nurse duty at home with a sick little one. I did send out the general fund today. Overall, we're in fairly good shape. Again, we certainly want to pay attention to payroll. The numbers that that are shown here, the salaries that can be encumbered, which are actual salaries for based on contracts, are encumbered, but the hourly employees are not encumbered. So that's an area that, you know, we continue to monitor as the year goes through. At the December meeting, I'll bring forward the special revenue report. There were some questions I had with the revenue posting from the new treasurer that I want to go over before I present that information to school committee. But then we'll be right in line to go back to regular updates starting in January. I don't know if there are any questions on the quarterly report. That's what I have for this evening.
If we have any questions for next time, we'll ask, because it's quite lengthy. And that concludes. Okay, thank you, Rich. Report of the Budget and Finance Subcommittee, Stephanie?
Okay, so, I think Mr. Matthew just talked about, we talked about the budget timeline, which we all got in our packet.
Yeah.
We talked about the joint finance meeting that we'll have in late April or early May. We talked about how all the schools would be at one budget meeting, and that will be on the second meeting of February. Instead of everybody coming at different times, everybody's going to come together since it's one district. And then we talked about Tyler Technologies and Infinite Vision software. And I'm gonna need a little bit of help on that because my notes were chicken scratch. And I couldn't, what was the funding coming from?
The funding on that is proposed from school choice.
Okay,
We had kind
that's
of
right.
geared the end of FY '19 to position ourselves to be able to afford this project.
Right. And that was for the software for the main office, correct?
New general ledger software that encompasses payroll, human resources, purchasing,
Right.
Accounts payable, and of course the general ledger package. We actually had Tyler in today for an updated presentation. The last time they were in was about 2 years ago. And Sandy, I don't want to speak for you, but I think everybody was happy with what they saw. It provides robust, modern tools to be able to be as efficient as possible. For example, it has e-procurement built in so that you can go to Amazon, create a shopping cart, download those items, and directly create a PO straight from that. So, you know, the advancement in terms of technology is a decade leap. You know, the software was bought about 10 to 12 years ago. So it's time to be upgraded and come into, you know, a modern software program that I think will benefit the entire district.
I'd just like to add in the cost, it's $150,000 approximately. That's a quote from 2 years ago almost, so we're
Yep.
not sure if that's still accurate. And of that 150, I have written down in my notes, 100,000 is fixed and 45,000 is for the training. Is that what my notes say? Mine aren't too good either. 100, I think, so 45 of that is for training, and 100 is just for the program. Is that basically how it
That's
works?
basically it, yeah.
Now,
We will
that
get an
could
updated
change.
quote that we'll bring to the next Budget and Finance Subcommittee, and I'll ask them for a vote of recommendation to bring forward to the full school committee in December.
And then, I think, an annual fee of, do I have 25,000?
25,000,
The
yes.
annual fee of 25,000. And right now, we're paying 21,000 for something, correct? So it's
Yes.
not much different.
It's not much difference.
So that
that's
one's
right.
kind of wash, but it's the other 150, maybe high or low, we're not sure at this point.
And when are we going to have it up and running? You said, what are we hoping for?
It all depends on, you know, the time that we can take away from the day-to-day jobs that we're currently doing and invest in the software. So given those timelines, we'd be looking at either January 2021 or possibly June 30th, 2021, one of those two dates. In some ways, it will be very exciting to bring it forward, but to do that in January may be a little bit challenging, given everybody's schedule and all of that. So we might look for that new fiscal year, clean cutoff. It'll have to be determined to see it, once we get into the process, to see how quickly things go.
Go ahead.
I have two questions. One, does it have to go out to bid because of the cost, and so therefore we have to see what the most competitive bids are?
There's an option for purchasing through the state bid list.
Okay.
Okay, the state contract
Yep.
for this. I want to see what that cost is, though, versus going out to bid.
Okay, and then my second question is, that's a lot of money, and if you're looking that, there's a possibility that it may not get implemented till, I think you just said June 30th, is this money that's encumbered and needs to be spent this year, or is this money that we should wait until that time frame and make sure we don't need it in some unforeseen emergency?
Whereas at school choice funds, it won't necessarily need to be encumbered to prevent it from going away. Those revolving funds continue year to year. In terms of waiting to make a decision, we can certainly wait, but the software that we currently have is not getting any better. The amount of work that we have is not getting any less. And the whole point of the new software system is to improve the efficiency of the business office.
Okay. It's just a lot of money.
Sure, it absolutely is.
So if we're talking that we don't have a lot of money in case of an emergency, that's, I guess, where I was going with it.
Did you say could lease and apply 2,000, but that you don't use for 4 years? Is that?
Yeah, they do, they offer a number of different ways to pay for and finance the package. The cost is more if you go through that route. So we'll look at all of the options that they offer in terms of pricing and financing and procurement, and we'll present them and we'll figure it out together.
And it's important to have this program to run the office and to run the whole district.
It's the heart.
It is.
It's the heart and the brains of you know, what we do in the business office, in the operational end of things. And, even just from the personnel side of things, at the presentation today, they were talking about some districts being almost paperless. I'm not going to say that we'll be almost paperless tomorrow, or, within a couple of days of implementing it, but that's certainly the goal, and the software has that capability. It interacts with SchoolSpring, so that they talk to each other. Once you choose a candidate on SchoolSpring, you can import their information directly into the system. And so again, it's a leap forward in terms of technological capabilities of the system.
Any other questions? Kathy?
I just wanted to know if we've done any research on other school systems that are comparable to our size and what systems they're using.
Infinite Visions is one of the leaders in terms of schools. The other competing program that many municipalities use is Munis, owned by Tyler as well. And a lot of the functionality of both programs mirror each other.
Anyone else?
Okay. Mr. Matthew, could you clarify, the potential go-live date was what?
January 2021 or July 1, 2021.
Okay, so over a year from now.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, excuse me, so if, with that date, would we be looking for school choice funding in 2021 or prior to that?
We'd have to make the commitment now in terms of actually purchasing the modules, but the training costs and all of those are pay-as-you-go, if you will.
I see.
So it's not a set fee up front. It's what you actually use when you actually use it.
Okay, thank you.
But the biggest cost is the conversion of all of our data and all of our information in our accounting system over into the new software. So that will take time to do that.
Mr. Matthew, through the
Go
chair, I assume there will be a period of time of dual or backup plans, or in case, I know when
No,
big changes
we'll just plug it in and start
That's it?
payroll.
Go.
No, I'm just kidding, obviously. Doing parallel processing is one of the keys to successful implementation, and one of the reasons you want to take a while. You don't want to just run one payroll through. You don't want to just run two payrolls through. You actually ideally want to be able to go through a 3 payroll month or cycle to ensure that what you're getting in one system is exactly what you're getting in another system.
Just for clarification, did you say July 20 or 21?
July 2021.
Because in our minutes, we have it both as July 20. In the minutes and as my notes, you had July of next year, 2020. That should be 2021.
It's going to be,
Well,
yeah,
our
that's
minutes are
not going
wrong
to
also, so we'll have to correct that in the minutes.
be. After listening today
Okay.
to the conversation and kind of understanding where we are versus where we want to be in terms of implementing this, I think the extra time will benefit us.
That's fine, just we'll have to correct that.
And we didn't vote on the minutes
No,
anyway at the
we do that
subcommittee.
at the
Yeah.
meeting.
So, anyone else?
I just
Kathy?
have a question about the budget timeline. Is that appropriate now?
Go ahead.
Okay, so one of the things that I think we ran into last year was snow. So I didn't know if we can make sure that when we have that February meeting, that we also in advance set a snow date so that we all have it scheduled in our schedules, just in case.
Makes sense. So we can do that. But we'll put it on for next time. Anything else? Okay, so we'll add that, Kathy. So, next on the,
Stephanie, you done with your report?
Mhm.
Because I just had a couple of things. I had asked about the cafeteria deficit, and because we had that free lunch thing that was in September, I know you, and Mr. Matthews said, excuse me, it had gone down, but it's starting to go back up again. Didn't you say something to that effect about the cafeteria deficit?
That's what the numbers were indicating, yes.
Do you have a figure yet? Will you have for the next meeting?
I'll bring that to the Budget and Finance
Okay,
Subcommittee.
yeah. And also school choice, I asked about that. You said it's about 151 people so far. Have we gotten anybody else in? Says that? Okay.
okay. Anyone else? All right, so we'll move on. Report of the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, Karen.
Thank you. So in my report tonight, I have a variety of items. The first one being professional development update. Firstly, we had our first professional development committee meeting, October 29th, a couple weeks ago. I provided a link electronically for a newsletter. Hopefully you had a chance to read that, and we set some goals for this year. I think we had 8 members out of approximately 14 who originally showed interest, so that's great. One of the things we talked about was focusing approach to learning more about understanding by design and personalized learning by the committee members to bring professional development to all staff to achieve many targets in the Portrait of a Graduate strategic plan. Many people commented that the project-based learning initiative was one that was, kind of a targeted goal to meet some of those initiatives. So this was another focused approach that we'd like to expand. We're going to bring forth a variety of workshops for our winter workshops, which the brochure will be going out in December. Some things to include equity and opportunity for all students, personalized learning again, personalized learning with technology specifically, grant writing, first aid, CPR, AED training, cultural diversity discussions, social emotional learning, trauma-sensitive childhood experiences, and more. So things we discussed are book clubs, evening speakers, in-person workshops, and online discussion groups, so a variety of ways for people to participate. And then another increased focus that we wanted to look at was a focus on teacher wellness and opportunities for more collegial events, so I thought that was good. Last week at our administrative team meeting, we all reflected as a group on our recent PD day, and some discussions we had about that were just like ease of the day and perhaps having just to do the variety of different workshops that we have in the locations. If perhaps we had one day in the Dudley schools and then another day perhaps in the spring on Charlton. And then with some of the Ed Camp activities, we discussed focusing the workshops a little bit more to have specific targets, such as, for example, grade 8 through 12 foreign language, middle school math, etc., so that people could have more focused target. Project 500, which is a new buzzword for the district. We had a first meeting of that with our 4 elementary principals, Mr. LaMarche, Mrs. Allen, myself, met on October 25th for a day-long literacy retreat. We started to delve into the district needs for future reading instruction. What it does, Project 500, is aims to fully evaluate reading instruction for our students in kindergarten through 2nd grade, or basically a student's first 500 days of school, where the foundation skills are attained. The mission of Project 500 is to promote confident, competent, literate students who will successfully advance through their academic experiences. We are focusing on the methodology of current instructional strategies and the critical areas of phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, comprehension, and vocabulary in order to identify successful systematic practices and to ensure our instructional strategies are sustainable. In addition, we will review our benchmarking tools and all other forms of measuring student progress from mastery K through 2. Lastly, our state enacted a dyslexia screening law in 2018, and DESE will be issuing guidelines this year for a universal screening tool. As our teachers have been very involved with a variety of literacy activities over the last several years, such as implementation of Project Read Phonics program, Focus K2 curriculum, which is in kindergarten, development of units of instruction, and this year our Houghton Mifflin Inter-Reading pilot. We will need their voices and reflections on their work moving forward, as we recognize there is no single program to address all of our emerging district needs. Our next Project 500 retreat is going to be not on Thanksgiving, which I mistyped there. It's actually November 25th. More updates will follow as our work develops. And I just want to add that I do have meetings scheduled with all the pilot teachers for Houghton Mifflin to start to review their work on that. An exciting day was had 2 Fridays ago, as some of our team participated in the DESI program evaluation convening. That was Mr. LaMarche, Mrs. Allen, Mrs. Pastore, Judy Powell, Jill Dehannon, and Sydney Markley and myself. We went to the district with the district management group and DESI representatives. It was a very valuable day as we set goals and objectives and collaborated to identify data points we can collect through the year that's going to be best to help in evaluating our co-teaching model. Various tools were provided by DESI to aid these discussions, such as what are the inputs, what are the actions, and what are the outcomes. And we spent a lot of time discussing what we have done so far, what we intend to happen, and what we anticipate the outcomes will be. And that is going to aid in our evaluation as well. So we'll continue our work on that. And we, again, we had hoped that we were going to use our participation in this group to help evaluate the reading program, but it's obviously going to be a lot of work, so we are going to backtrack on that and just focus on co-teaching and use those tools that we are collecting through this program to aid in our Project 500 work. In school news, I spoke about the literacy fair at Charlton Elementary School. You just saw that awesome presentation. It was amazing. I can't even, just the amount of work that went into it was great. Also, I just thought it was amazing. The beanbag toss, the hopscotch, the musical chairs. The poor teacher must have been singing the Monster Mash to himself like all weekend. But it was fabulous. So that was great. Mass STEM Week, we had a variety of great projects going on with that. It's behind us. It was actually, that's why I was not here at the last school committee meeting, but still work is continuing. And Charlton Middle School, Heritage, Dudley Elementary School students learned about solar energy and constructed fans with solar panels. Heritage grade 2 students, Mrs. Nugent's class, are working on a project to reduce school lunch waste and are working with the cafeteria manager to learn about composting. Charlton Middle School grade 7 students are learning about microplastic waste and constructing devices to help clean microplastics from the water. All of these projects and the curriculum and training were provided for free by Project Lead the Way, so I'm really thankful to all the teachers who signed up to take a part in that training and to help bring it back to our students. I just want to also give a shout out to the National Honor Society at Shepherd Hill. Again, Kaylee O'Brien talked about Socktober. I talked about it here. But I just want to also say, like, they've been everywhere for the last month. They've been at Dudley Middle School for community reading, Charlton Middle School. They've been at the literacy fair, help volunteering, and it's just been great. We, as an administrative team, recognized Mr. Stefan, who's the advisor, for all his work. It's just been amazing to see all the community outreach that they have done, and so we just want to kind of recognize him and the work that they do. I do have 2 more things to mention, and hot kind of off the press from last Friday is that we've been waiting to hear about the Innovation Pathway Implementation Grant for Shepherd Hill. We thought we would hear in June. We got a verbal that we couldn't announce that we did get it, and we did get the final paperwork on Friday. So we were getting $50,000 to help with implementation in the Innovation Pathway programs at Shepherd Hill. So that's exciting. And the last thing I want to mention is that Leicester Middle School has Leicester School District has a new curriculum director. And about a week and a half ago, I got a pleasant phone call that they reached out to us because they were researching about STEM programs, and they just thought that we were doing great work in the area, and we have an outstanding reputation. So that was a lovely phone call that I received a couple weeks ago. So that's my report.
Any questions for Karen? Thank you, Karen. Okay, next, request for additional staffing, Mr. LaMarche.
Madam Chair and School Committee, I did prepare a statement regarding this because this is our third meeting in a row, and it feels like, oh, here we go again. So I did write to you that I'm confident that your question may be, this is the third meeting in a row that we are requesting staff, what gives? You know, I know I'm talking like my 13-year-old there. But what continues to emerge is that, number one, the transition in our continuum of services is now include co-teaching as a model for providing service to our students, as well as ensuring that all identified required services through reorganization of team chairs to coordinators. And thirdly, move-in students have contributed in many ways to the need for additional staff. And number four, student needs emerged throughout the years. So any one of those could have been a factor in why we keep coming back. Hopefully this is the last one, with the exception of a move-in that we've uncovered. But as indicated with the Assistant Superintendent's report, we are committed to evaluating co-teaching and optimizing that important program in our continuum of services across the district. And we know that the coordinators have greater oversight over transitions and meeting the needs of our students through their developing years, meaning that they will be involved in writing the IEPs from one level to the next level, so they have greater oversight and accountability for that. With that, Lorinda Allen is prepared to answer any questions that you may have, but we are in the need for an additional IA for Charlton Middle School.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the new special education instructional assistant for Charlton Middle School.
So moved. Second.
Discussion.
Who would that fund kind of circuit breaker?
It's going to be circuit breaker. As the year goes through, if there is money available in the general fund, then certainly we'll, not want to hit circuit breaker, but initially that would be.
What's the official figure for this, about?
Given the prorated status, about 19,000 or so.
Plus benefits? Plus
Potentially.
benefits.
Any other questions? All in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you. Can we
Uh,
move the field trip up before I get into the budget priorities?
Okay,
Is that okay?
fine. All right, we will, before we get into the FY21 budget priorities, we'll take G, report of the,
No, H, sorry.
yeah, we'll take H. Consideration of requests for overnight international travel. Mr. Lamache?
Madam Chair and School Committee, and Mary, I really appreciate your patience with me through this application and submission. I know that we were put on the agenda, I asked it to be off, and now it's back on, so we continue to work through our field trip application processes. We're very close to having an online application for our staff and for these type of requests. But looking at your application, it's certainly very thorough, and it's pre-planning for 2021. Madam Chair and School Committee, in the audience is Mary Perangeli, did I say that right? Pierangeli, yep. Who's requesting an overnight travel request for April 2021. Without reading the entire document, April 2021, the trip will include travel to a French-speaking country. The proposed 2021 trip will highlight Paris, Florence, and Venice, 3 cities that present an amazing combination of history, classic landmarks, and awe-inspiring natural beauty. And again, to go on, the reason why for the timing is early planning. On the second page, early planning and approval will allow our students to travel in 2021 at the lowest price possible, including a $200 early enrollment discount. Additionally, payment will be extended over a longer period of time. The 11-day trip will include 2 nights in Florence, 2 nights in Venice, 2 nights in the French Riviera, and 3 nights in Paris. The $3,664 cost will also include round-trip airfare from the United States, transportation within Europe, including the high-speed TGV train from Nice to Paris, breakfast and dinner daily, as well as sightseeing and entrance fees to select attractions as outlined in the itinerary. As in past years, there will be 1 chaperone for each group of 6 students, and in addition, a bilingual EF tour director in attendance throughout the tour. The group requests to depart date of Friday, April 16th, 2021, and return on Monday, April 26th. The Participating students and teachers will miss one day of school on Monday, April 26th. Please note that I have requested a late day departure on Friday, April 16th. However, it is possible that the flight schedules will necessitate leaving Shepherd Hill prior to the conclusion of the school day on the departure date. I just saw the email today of the number of students that are participating in this April's trip. I didn't count how many there were, but it has to be under 100, but very close. 115 students who are participating in this year's trip.
There are 3 buses, and we've had 3 buses for many years.
Yeah, it's pretty spectacular. So, again, there's a lot of planning. I know this will have to come back to school committee according to policy with the itinerary and more information.
But this was very well done, Mary.
Yes.
When it gets Mary's name on it, we don't have to think twice. Be truthful people. I make a motion to approve the trip for, what should I say, April 2021. Is that good enough?
Yeah.
Second.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Together for all of
Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you for providing our students with an opportunity to develop that global perspective for the past study report. It's thanks to this committee that we have such a large number of students participating.
That's great.
So thank you.
And thank you, Mary.
The pricing that you're able to get is really, really good for the students too. That's phenomenal.
I try hard. This was not the trip I wanted. The one that I wanted, I couldn't get under 4,000. So, but this is a very, very good trip, so I'm happy with it.
I want to go.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you, Mary. All right, that will bring us back to the FY21 budget priorities.
Madam Chair and School Committee, I prepared this evening a preliminary list of budget priorities as identified. Again, please note that I've only been here for a couple of months, but working with the administrative team, we have developed a list of priorities. Please keep in mind that the following list is preliminary in every way. It seeks open dialogue from you as a school committee and others. The list is not in priority form, it's in alphabetical form, alpha form. Does not please keep in mind that the list does not contemplate concessions or funding mechanisms to support each priority. This list of priorities will require continued refinement, and new priorities may emerge to take the place of others prior to the FY20 budget presentation in February. There's a lot of work to be done. So some of the budget priorities that were identified, again, in alpha order, is moving to a full-time athletic director, providing before and after care programs for our students. That will be new to your list because I just added it before from last week's meeting, from last week's conference. Continuing to support co-teaching program, a custodian at Shepherd Hill Regional High School, a district office receptionist, 0.5, an ELL coordinator at 0.5 FTE for the district because the numbers continue to increase, a facilities director for the district, that's a 1.0 full-time equivalent position, a guidance counselor, 1.0 full-time equivalent at Shepherd Hill Regional High School, a health and physical education teacher at Dudley Middle School, a human resources director for the district, an intensive pre-K teacher, 0.5 at Mason Road School, a librarian media specialist at 1.0 full-time equivalent for both CMS and DMS because they're sharing one at this time, a literacy coach for the elementary education, 1.0, continued support of operations within the district, which to include items such as school security, technology enhancements, and facility needs, budgetary support for Project 500 outcome, 2 full-time equivalent school adjustment counselors, 1 for Shepherd Hill and 1 for Dudley Middle School, and 2 full-time equivalent world language teachers, 1 for Dudley Middle School and 1 for Charlton Middle School. Again, it's not in graphic detail. I'd be happy to try to provide some feedback on any one of these items if you have them at this time. And I would also look for your input that may not be on this list. Keep in mind, if we were to fund the entire list, I did a rough estimate. This is as rough can be. It's a little over $1 million to support everything on this list. And also keep in mind, as this does not contemplate, again, concessions or funding mechanisms to support this, we have contractual and agreement obligations that are going to be north or above $700,000 going into next year. Again, those are rough numbers from my quick math in preparation for this school committee item this evening. But I turn it over to you.
What did you say to add, before and after school, what did you say you
Oh,
added?
before and after care programs for
What would that
K
be
through
then?
4. Opportunities for students to be dropped off early for school or to be picked up later for school for working families.
And no cost to them? It's not like...
Again, I didn't contemplate
No,
any of
but
the
I mean-
mechanisms, but that would be
Okay.
the goal.
No cost?
That would be the
The goal
goal.
is no cost? Because
Yeah.
we've discussed that many times, like after school
But
till
there could be,
5.
but there could be a cost, that's what I mean,
Right.
I didn't want to contemplate any of the
Not
mechanisms.
necessarily,
Yeah.
not necessarily.
Yeah.
That was discussed at the MASC conference, and actually, most of the after-school programs that other districts are putting in place do have a cost to the
Mhm.
parents. Otherwise, they're actually paying somebody else, not in the district, to do the
Right,
before and
exactly.
after
That's what I
school.
wanted
There
clarification.
there are like programs within the ones that we looked at that would provide vouchers for parents that cannot afford that.
Yeah.
So that we would be able to make sure everyone is accommodated.
I would think that there has to be a cost associated with it. And the amount of
Absolutely.
money that I personally pay into after-school care, I mean, there has to be a way to do it less financially, with less financial hardship.
Right.
Mhm.
So we break even almost. Would that be the goal, to break even almost? So there'd be no cost
To
to us?
pay for the staff.
Yeah, that would pay for the staff.
Meaning it wouldn't cost the district.
That's what I mean, what the income would pay for the staff that's doing it.
At a minimum.
Yeah.
We're not doing it for a profit.
No, but
In
also
other
charge you,
words.
so we don't have to pay
Right,
the price.
right,
Yeah.
But I don't think that we financially are stable enough to do it without a cost
I don't either.
associated.
Oh,
Yes.
I just have a question on your, not on this list, but on the timeline for the budget.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance, it said you were talking to the different towns. Have you had a chance to meet with those towns and determine what their contributions might be?
Not at this time, no.
Okay.
Mrs. O'Clair, through the chair.
go ahead.
Mr. Lamache, just a couple questions. I know this is still a work in progress, just for my own clarification. The library media specialist for CMS and DMS, right now they have one that's being shared? So
Yes.
the goal is to have one per school?
Correct.
Great, thank you. And then the other question I had was the school adjustment counselor for Shepherd Hill and Dudley Middle. Charlton Middle has, I'm just wondering where Charlton Middle falls into this.
Right now, Charlton Middle presented that they were comfortable with their level of staffing that they have in that area. It wasn't seen as a priority for Charlton Middle School. So it wasn't, the goal here wasn't to try to provide symmetry across our sister schools or brother schools or all that kind of stuff. It was, what is the emerging need right now within your particular school? So again, there's nothing here that's a priority, and how that's going to emerge or be paid for is not in here as well.
Sure, I
Yep.
didn't want to,
That was definitely part of the discussion,
thank you, that's all I needed.
and it will continue to be part of the discussion.
Great, thank you, Mr. Lamache.
Yeah, you're welcome.
May I just get a clarification? How would these be brought forward to the school committee? One at a time, based on what you think is a priority, or the whole list in priority order?
Yeah, I don't think it will be Steve Lamarche's priority order. It will be what we decide as administrative team moving forward. And then it also comes down to how we would pay for
Right.
any of the stuff as well. So
Okay.
it will come as this is just a very preliminary list. It will come as a tier 1, tier 2 from my perspective. Tier 1 would be, these are the things that we ultimately decided as a group that we were recommending, and that's feedback from staff within the buildings as well, to the principals, and then to the ad council, and then to budget sub, and then to school committee. And that would be broken up into a tier 1, tier 2, and then what concessions are identified to help fund it as well.
Okay, thank you.
It would be a multi-step presentation.
Any other questions?
On the
Kathy?
project 500, you mean there'd be one person like overseas, is that what you mean? Would
No.
that be a full-time position?
Project 500 is designed to look at our reading and literacy instruction, kindergarten through grade 2. Right now, the district's been looking at a resource for that. What Project 500 leads us down, we just need the budgetary support for that, if there's a resource involved.
Oh, so that's not a person, that's
not
the
a per-
program.
It's not necessarily a person.
Well, no, it could
Right.
be.
Could be tied into the literacy coach or something of
Okay.
that nature, but Project 500 is an initiative that we would
Right.
like.
I thought you were gonna have someone to like run the program, it's not like like a
No,
department head or
that's the work of
something
all
like
of
that.
us. It's-
Okay.
yeah.
Good.
That's not a person.
Okay.
I tried to put in FTEs where there was a person. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, so we'll move to the last item on the agenda, and that's report of the Policy Review Subcommittee, and I believe Mr. Lamache is going to speak
Yes.
to it.
Madam Chair, in school committee, we do have the second reading for policy BG, based off of school committee feedback from the first reading, as well as JF. With BG, I think I incorporated, you have it in your file. I did bring a copy with a red line version of it. It's a little bit bigger than that one.
Okay, thank you.
So I believe I incorporated the final feedback that was provided on policy BG.
It still says reasonability
It does?
instead of responsibility.
Hmm.
It still says reasonability.
Yeah. Sorry about that. But I did add,
Do you have another one?
There must be another one, yeah. Sorry.
We've got enough stuff.
Sorry. Concentrate.
So the final edits that I thought were obviously responsibility, which I missed, I reasonably missed. I added an S to amendments in the second paragraph, policies or amendments. And then we changed constituencies to staff, and we changed sequence to steps. And then we also added that the committee may dispense with the above steps to meet emergency conditions with a 2/3 vote, as it indicated in another policy.
I just say on that previous, the one, step 4, we don't need the double step
Right.
there. So one of those should be taken out. Probably the first steps, so just say step 4.
Yep, agreed.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, everybody agree to this? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for our second reading and approval of policy BG.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. Okay, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. I did forget to waive, we didn't read it, and we should have a vote to waive the, okay. After the fact, but we should anyway do it. Sorry. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. So now we have the next policy, is JF.
Yeah, policy JF, I did highlight that the changes that were made in it, there were 3 changes that were made in it.
Okay.
Once again, I don't know, I know you're going to, I respectfully request that you waive the reading of it.
All right.
And it's changing,
Well, you can go over it first before we do it. You can go over the changes.
so, we changed 30 days to 60 days throughout the columns, to give more time for people to get their lives in order if they're moving, et cetera. And then we
Kathy, didn't you have a question on that one?
Let me think.
Yeah, no, I
It didn't make
There was
sense.
something
There was a-
confusing
This
there.
did- right.
Why would you give them more time?
Can-
Wasn't that,
yeah, can we
what did I
clarify
say that?
Mr.
Yeah.
Lamont?
Yeah. A
And,
copy
like,
of one
why
of the
would it
following
be more
bills is
time?
dated within the
Because
past.
when you move it, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Within the past 60 days. Remember what you had said?
Yeah, let me
We're
read it
going
again.
backwards or something.
Okay, to try to add clarity, when you move, which I will be doing this year.
You can
Okay.
try the
You're not
policy out.
allowed.
You'll be the first
I
case.
want my kids to come here next
We got a
year.
test case right here.
You were.
Some days, sometimes it's hard to get all of your stuff in order within 30 days, bills, mortgages, all your paperwork. So 60 days gives a greater opportunity for you to get everything in order to prove that you actually live within that
Right.
residence
But
within the
don't they
town.
have to prove before they come into the school?
Yeah, they're registering and everything like that, and if there's a question, they do send them to us. This is
Yeah, but
primarily
then
for.
that was your question. Yeah, they're going to be in the school before you give them all, because you're giving them 60 days, right? That they're going to come up with it after the school, after they've been in school. Suppose they can't come up with it.
They show up
Then
September
won't come to
1st,
school
then
year.
No,
If they
but
show,
they
I think my
already-
question, if they show up September 1st, do they have till November 1st to give you that stuff?
Yeah, that
Or
was
is
the
it pre-60
question.
days?
It's 60 days from when they register their kid, or...
So I could come in September 1st without any proof of anything and be enrolled for
No,
2
no,
months?
that's not what it's saying.
That's what I, like,
That's
okay.
You have to bring
That's like
as
a-
much information as you can to register your child
Right.
for school. If there's something, an issue, this is where the evidence has 60 days to provide that evidence. This is few and far between. These are people who are, you know, to be quite honest with you, most of these individuals are leases or renters. They're not, most of them are not the mortgage. But there is a stipulation here where the superintendent can sit down with them and review it and allot them a time frame to get their stuff in order. I think that's 30 days or something of that nature. But it does provide them more opportunity to get everything in order. There are very few people who are, again, fall within this particular thing, but going through the process this school year in meeting with these individuals, 30 days was a hardship for them to get everything in order because they were moving, et cetera. Not every one of them. I'm talking about probably 4 or 5 people that I met with this year that fell within these categories that required more work.
But they could still come.
Yes,
They have till the end of October to get it all together, basically.
yes.
Okay.
Well, that's what our question was.
Well, yeah.
They were going to be here, and then if they didn't meet that criteria, then they're out.
Correct.
Okay.
So,
I do think this is a small number of people we're talking about,
Yeah.
in my opinion, and the way that we have now set it up, unless we're gonna change it again, is the people are requested to register their child in the springtime. And so if they anticipate that they're moving to Charlton and they're gonna register them in the springtime, then they have 60 days from the date that they register
yeah,
to
if
get their
they
stuff
register
together.
them in the springtime.
Right. but
Sometime you get them
I
right.
understand that there might be a couple, but
You always have new students on the first day,
And
but
those students
there
need
aren't,
to go
there
to
aren't as
school.
many as you think that fall into
Right.
these categories. But
We should
60
have it
days,
right. It doesn't have it's 1 to 100, it should be correct. You know, we should all agree what it says.
Yep.
That was my question.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you.
Mr. Lavash, just for clarification, you're talking getting their affairs in order, you're meaning that the 60 days allows for, say, I don't know, what is it, the gas bill might be dated September, and then the other bill that they provide might be dated October, so the 60 days allows it all to fall in that time
correct,
period.
right.
Does that help?
No, I understand now.
Yeah.
But allows them to start the school year in Dudley-Charlton
Okay,
as
that's
well,
what I-
which is really important for
That-
students
yeah, well,
who
that's
are
what
going
our
to be
question-
here
Okay.
to start the school year
I got you.
on time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then we added under section 5, exceptions. Somebody did notice that there was a typo in the date. We don't have July 30th in there. I think it was July 60th last night.
Okay, now,
Which would
let-
actually make it August 30th, right?
Right.
July 60th.
Yeah, that's right.
okay, now I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading of the policy JF.
So moved.
So I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in discussion? All in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. Now, this is our second reading and approving of the policy JF. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, any more discussion? Okay, seeing none, all, okay, Kathy.
I guess I'm still uncomfortable with the 60 days, and I think that for the limited amount of people that you have that might be exception to it, you have the mechanism that they're able to meet with you to to be able to waive certain things, correct?
Yeah, I don't do, there isn't usually a lot of, the only thing that I really waive,
Right.
if I'm waiving something, is a timeline. I don't waive the requirements of them to bring in information. So the only thing that that's why I'm saying it through practice, 30 days was a tight timeline for a couple of people.
And through practice, what is the typical number of days for districts to have on their policies? Do we know that?
This is a very extensive policy. Many districts don't have this policy as detailed as this. So it's not a practice that I have, so that's why I put this into practice this year. I have not experienced a policy that's this detailed on residency or enrollment.
Through the chair, Mr. Lavash, what's an example of, could you provide an example of what's too stringent about this? And I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I prefer to bring it to policy sub if that's what you want.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't, I'm fine with it as is, I just didn't know
Yeah.
if you had something.
So again, the only thing that I wouldn't waive a requirement to bring a document or a lease or any of that nature, it just gives more time. The only thing that I would not necessarily waive is try to work with them to give them a little bit more time. To me, the ones that ran into most of the issues were those with renting, leasing. They had to vacate one place to get to another place, they didn't have all their paperwork in a row. I wanted Steve Lamarche to start the school year. So 30 days was gonna be tight for them, it was already a hardship for them. We're talking about, again, a small group of people, and I thought it was more important that the child started the school year than we needed a
So
lease
in other
document from a
words,
landlord.
the child will start the school year without the documentation, but they're going to.
With as
they
much
have-
documentation as they
right.
possibly have.
And if they don't have it, they still
They
can
still,
start
they're
it.
required to still give it to me, when they get it, on
In
day 31,
60
day
days.
32, day 33.
To bring a little bit of a historical perspective on the discussion for this policy, there were several instances that were uncovered while we were working on this initially, where legitimately the student was not a resident of Dudley or Charlton at all. So that is why it's so detailed.
Mrs. Antossi, how long was that student in the district?
There was more than one.
Well, what was the average?
I can't say.
Oh, I didn't know, yeah, I just was curious, thank you.
So in my opinion, I think that the 60 days is fair in order to give the people who legitimately need to pull their paperwork together that time to do so. And yet it covers us for those situations where the student really should be attending school in another district because they don't live here.
I think I know what I thought of last, 2 months, weeks ago. What do you mean by last 60 days? What are the last? Don't you just mean 60 days from enrollment?
Yeah.
So what is the word last seems, that was my thing. Last seems to me like it's gotta go back 60 days from when they enroll. I think the key word was last was what confused me.
Oh,
Or the past.
It says, copy back from the last 60 days. It's from it's not the last 60 days. They haven't even come yet.
Right, correct.
So I think the word last was my
You're
problem.
giving them more time.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
Yeah.
all.
So take out the word last, wouldn't you?
last and past, yeah,
Past is in column B.
yeah.
But that doesn't make sense, because you're asking for past, and yet you're giving them 60 days ahead, isn't it? The
We
next
should remove last and past.
And just say for 60 days or
Yes.
something. They give them 60 days. That was my problem. The last didn't make sense. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, we were thinking that they have to have the documentation in before
That's what
they
last
can come
meant.
into the schools. So that's why we were saying, well, 60 days, doesn't make sense. But now it does. You want this child to start school and give the parent more time to get the documentation.
So that's why we should take out the word last. That's why I was confused. I thought you had to go back 60 days from
Last and
September
past,
1st.
yeah.
Yeah, take them out,
Okay.
take them out.
Yeah, and keep in mind, every one of these, I require them to meet with me. This is not something we do over the telephone
No,
or
right,
through
no.
email. There's a requirement for the face-to-face meeting to discuss the particulars around their situation.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. Okay. And next meeting dates, school committee meetings, Wednesday, December 11th. That will be at the Shepherd Hill Regional High School, 7 p.m. Budget and Finance Subcommittee, we did change it. And Stephanie, is that okay with you? It's going to be November 26th? Okay, instead of the 19th?
Yeah.
Yes,
26th,
November
Tuesday the
20th.
26th.
I told you that, because I checked with Steve, I thought I told you.
November 26th, so it's still
Is
Tuesday.
that okay with
That's
you?
fine with
Yeah.
me, but it's still
Because
Tuesday. the
remember, yeah,
Still
Wait a
Tuesday.
minute, the 26th.
Yep.
Is that the
I
day
did
before-
tell you
no,
we had to change
Yeah, I know,
it.
but I can't make that.
You can't make
No,
that
that's the
one?
day before Thanksgiving, that's Thanksgiving week, right?
Yes.
That
Yeah,
is
I
Thanksgiving
can't
week.
make that Tuesday.
No.
I can't make it. Can we make it Monday?
We do have, is there another meeting?
Want to do Monday instead? How about Monday?
The 25th?
But didn't you have something else on Monday?
I did,
No.
but that's okay.
Okay,
Yeah, but 8:30, have it early, Monday the
I can do
20th.
Monday.
Okay, is that okay with you, Stephanie?
That's
Monday?
okay. Monday, the 25th. I'm sorry, Kathy,
Yeah,
I
that's
thought I
okay.
did
No,
tell you.
no, I knew you were gonna change because of your other meeting.
Yeah, I told you
Okay.
that, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Everybody's okay with the 25th then? Okay, so it's Monday, November 25th It's at 8:30 at the Shepherd Hill Regional High School. Policy Review Subcommittee, November 18th on a Monday, and that's at Shepherd Hill at 8:30. December 2nd at Shepherd Hill at 8:30, and Monday, January 6th at Shepherd Hill at 8:30. Those are the 3 meetings for the policy. Curriculum, a subcommittee for teaching and learning, Thursday, November 21st, Shepherd Hill at 10 a.m. Capital Outlay Subcommittee, and that's going to be announced. Safety Subcommittee, Monday, November 18th, Charlton Middle School, 11 a.m. Before we go into executive session, we'll do the future.
You're having 2 meetings on the same day?
Yep.
In different places?
Yep.
Don't get a speeding ticket.
Yeah. I think you did that another time too, Steve.
This is fine. I just wanted to add one thing, and I know it's way past our sub-finance, but I wanted to tell everybody that we should have an answer for the MSBA in December, one way or the other. And I totally spaced out saying that because it could come before our next meeting, which would be, in an excellent, positive way, would be
That's
excellent to
good.
get it.
Yeah.
So I've totally
Thank
spaced
you.
that out, but I
Yeah,
just.
that's okay. We're going to do the future agenda items. Superintendent's Award, Principal's Award, Shepherd Hill Regional High School Show Choir, Student Achievement Report, Massachusetts School Building Authority, Assistant Superintendent Search, overnight and out-of-state field trip requests. Anyone else want to add on?
Conference updates?
Conference updates?
All
Thank
class-
you, Mary.
Class sizes for all the classes.
Class size.
When we talk about the student achievement data, can we have subgroup information data and how we are addressing any equity issues with that?
Right.
Yep.
Thank you. And that includes our school accountability data?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? And if you think of something, you can just email me. Okay? Now we are going to enter into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation, only to reconvene into regular session to take votes if necessary and adjourn. Okay, now I'll take a roll call. Penny?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Okay, we're now in executive session.